Mm-hmm.
We had one sled for our family
Mm-hmm.
and one pair of ice skates.
Yeah.
So we'd take turns using those.
Mm-hmm.
When we'd have sledding, we'd have to walk. It was almost a mile out of town. There was a big, just as you turn into Piers, there was a hill there, and you could slide all the way down. So we'd take our sleds, a bunch of us, and we'd go and slide down those. And we'd go
And like
up the hill, slide
how
down.
long? Like just all winter, a winter break, or?
Well, that's when we were in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we weren't in school, most days it was on weekends or something. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could go anytime we wanted to. We weren't too cold.
Would people snowmobile to school and?
Snowmobile? We didn't have snowmobiles.
No.
Oh heavens, no.
They didn't have snowmobiles back
No, we didn't have snowmobiles. We had a sled.
Oh yeah.
then. A sled that you could pull.
Yeah. No, we didn't have that. We had, we had sort of skis or not, but we had to walk wherever we went.
Mm-hmm.
So, the sledding was the thing we did. In the summertime, we'd walk down to the park. That was, and down, I don't know if you've ever been to our park.
No.
It's a really
you gonna
nice
go?
park.
Sledding,
It had a really nice golf course down there, was well known around. As a matter of fact, when I moved down to Chanhassen, one of my girlfriends said they used to come and golf up there in the cities. It's a really nice golf course, and they had a river, Snake River it was, that ran through, and at one part of it, they had it dammed up so we could swim in that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a nice swimming area.
Yeah.
So we do that and walk around the woods, and you know, that was our entertainment when we could sneak away from the house. I know, that's what we did.
So is that you do that in the summer then?
Yeah. We do that in the summer, and
Do you know what lake?
and then we'd
or
have,
what-
well, it was just a river. It was a nice river that ran right through the park. And
Oh, okay.
we had to walk down a mile
Mm-hmm.
to go swim in it. And didn't have a changing house or anything. We just, you know what we did. It wasn't developed a whole lot then yet. It was just a swimming pool.
Yeah.
They dammed up the water so the water would be deep enough for us to swim in it.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did we do? Oh, there was an open field just a little ways from our house that we used to play ball in all the time.
Yeah.
I got a couple pictures of that. We played baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And just some of
So, tell me about yourself.
some of the girls from, some of us from the neighborhood get together.
So you,
I know I have a picture
you
of
don't
one of my
know for
sisters
sure.
had her, I don't know,
Maybe it's the only
15th birthday or something like that, and all of us are standing there in the ball field.
Mhm.
In our dresses,
Yeah.
we wore dresses all the time then,
So it's not 2 semesters or
and we played
quarters?
baseball up there. That was always fun, we'd get together doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to, on our property, we used to have a barn. It was not a big barn, but it was a small barn at the, when you drive into our backyard, right on the right side of the road where you drove into our yard, there was
Yeah.
a barn. It wasn't a very big barn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what it was used for in the beginning. But since we had that little restaurant, and at that time you cooled beer and pop and things like that with ice.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'd always fill the part of the barn with big square chunks of ice, and they put sawdust in between them
Really?
to keep it separated, so it wouldn't all freeze together.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd keep it frozen, no winter long.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd use that to put in our beer cooler in our restaurant.
Okay.
And our pop and everything we just put big chunks of ice in.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was always kind of in the front of the barn, and then in the back of the
So
barn
that
was
must be
an open
quarters
space,
then,
and in
if
the
it starts in
summertime,
March.
we kids would
Quarter?
put on plays.
That'd
We'd
be
open the
March,
whole
April, May.
back of the
Oh
barn.
wait, your
Yeah.
Somewhere
barn?
in March, like
No,
March.
Or
in town where we lived in Pierce.
oh, okay.
The house that you've seen,
Do you know roughly like what year or what?
Well,
1940s, 19.
that would be before that.
I would get done faster than
Well, maybe, because we were, so I was born in 29, so it would be, like 35, 40, that age.
Mhm.
still going to school.
Something like that.
So I would get
And we'd put on plays, some of the neighborhood kids,
Mhm.
and try to get
I said, gotta call
people
people.
to come
And then the
see
whole
us.
so the whole neighborhood would come over then?
Oh, no, we did it for us kids, and we tried to get a few of them to come.
Oh,
And
okay.
not many came, it was just
Yeah.
our
So I'm kind of
form of
like-
entertainment.
I can't
Yeah.
really base my decision where
bizarre.
they're gonna be because I don't
Make up stories,
It's like if
forms
they're
of
in golf club, I
entertainment.
don't
Mhm.
right? But if they're
So we did that.
like, I can't, you know.
This guy's got my phone in my jacket.
We had one bike.
Well,
Yeah.
I
So
have mine.
we could
Yeah.
And Crystal has hers.
run around in that once in a while.
And they know
Mhm.
Cragun's.
He's gonna get away from the shore a little bit and let Crystal ride.
Okay.
So.
I don't know.
And she didn't know. I told her, I left her a voice note.
I don't
2 days
remember a
before she
whole
came
lot
in.
of things.
Yeah.
My
You're supposed to have
brothers
your
would have so many memories, you know.
Were they your brothers? Were they big hunters or were they?
They were,
Yeah, she
yeah,
can do
they
that. She
were,
can, nice to take care of business.
yeah, they'd go down to the park into the river down there, and
So what do you
they'd
do
do,
between now and for the next 2 months then?
yeah, they would trap,
You go back to work at
hunt.
that grocery
That means
store?
they do fishing,
It's
they
like
caught a lot of fish.
Do you know what they would trap?
You know, Marcia got a lot of.
They what?
Do you know what they would trap or what kind of?
Oh, that was, I did that for like 2 years.
I'm not so sure anymore about trapping. I just can't remember. I know they had turtles they'd bring home.
It was a
and
job.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
think,
And I made good money there, but, well, not really.
they didn't skin mink, so I don't know if they had mink. I think they were, I don't remember all those details of it. My brother Bill would tell stories that would be really fun to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, brother Bill, he loved animals, and so he caught an eagle one time that was not an eagle,
Mm-hmm.
an owl. That was, his wing was damaged.
Okay.
And so he brought it home and kind of nursed it back, and kind of tamed. It'd fly away, but it'd always come to roost in one of our trees in the backyard.
That's funny.
Yeah, that is funny. And it.
So it was like a sort of pet or domesticated or?
It was just a pet that seemed to trust him, and so he'd always come back to him because he worked with him a lot.
Okay.
He was really good with animals.
Yeah.
He did that a lot. And as well as my brother Tom, who trained dogs and everything. But Bill was a game warden for a number of years.
So Bill was the big.
Bill and
Was
I
the
were close.
was he like the most probably into hunting or trapping or?
Yeah, he was very much into hunting and fishing.
Or how many siblings did you have?
There were 11 of us.
11, and you were how?
And one of them I never knew. She died before I was born.
Okay.
And yeah, so there are 5 boys and 5 girls.
And then which
was
which
the-
one were you? And
Yeah, I was the 5th one, and Bill was the 6th one. And of those, my sister Laverne died. She died, and she was the second oldest.
okay.
And my mother didn't have any children for 10 years, and then she had 5 more.
Really?
Yeah. And then.
So she waited 10 years before having 5 more
Well,
kids?
I don't know how that happened. My dad
Yeah.
worked on the Alaskan Highway for a year. So he was gone a whole year working, it was during the 40s when they had to build that Alcan Highway
Mm-hmm.
because the Japanese they were worried about them coming across through Alaska and
Oh yeah.
taking over the United States or Alaska or all that. I don't know if you read them.
Wait, he worked on the highway through
On the
Alaska?
Alcan Highway.
Alcan
yeah.
Highway?
Yeah.
And what was his name again?
My dad's name was Al.
Oh, Al.
Alois.
Okay.
She was gone.
And he was in the army?
No, he wasn't. He was just no.
Oh,
he
just
was
a
in the
civilian.
No. His brother that I told you about before, Matt, he was in the Second World War.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think I told you about him. He was in the Second World War. Was my dad's one of his brothers, and I remember when he went to war. He was just a nice man and
Mm-hmm.
good-looking, nice, fine, kind man. And then he went into war, and he ended up in France in the war, and he was there. I was told he was on the front lines for 18 months.
Yeah.
He came back, and it's totally not the same at all.
Really?
Yeah. So he had a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
Now they call it PSTD,
Yeah.
and at that time it wasn't identified as such, but he just never got back to
Mm-hmm.
feeling normal. He lived downtown in Minneapolis for many years. And I talked to him a couple of times after he got back and then lost track. And we
Mhm.
all kind of lost track of him because he didn't keep in touch with anybody. So that was a sad thing.
Yeah.
Ah.
And then, so you grew up and you took care of the farm.
No, we lived right in Pierce. We didn't live on the farm. But I was in the summers. I would go out to my aunt and uncle's farm.
Okay.
They, it was my mother's, one of my mother's sisters, one of her younger sisters,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't have any children, and there were all of us kids right in Pierce.
Mm-hmm.
And so my aunt and uncle didn't have children, so they took me out to and spend my summers there.
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 years in a row. And after they lived, it's complicated, I guess. They lived, at first when they were married, her husband, my aunt's husband and his mother and his brother, they had a big farm
Mm-hmm.
near Rice.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was near Rice. And they had 2 big houses on it, and the different ones lived in different houses. And then they bought a farm of their own, and they built a farm on a road a little ways from that. And then I would go and spend a lot of summers with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd feed the pigs and milk the cows and go get the cows
Yeah.
out of the pasture.
And then you would do that mainly just in the summer?
Yeah,
Or?
yeah, it was just summer months,
Mm-hmm.
In summer, when there's no school, you have nothing to do really but run around town, and
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't do that. So I worked on the farm, and I was kind of like their hired hand.
Mm-hmm.
I helped them with the threshing and out in the fields and all those kind of things. And the things I always remember from there were they would gather up the hay, and then when they cut the grain, and they have machines and they cut it in bundles, so we'd have to go and stack those wheat bundles up,
Okay.
like that. So I'd help do that.
Would you throw the hay then on like a...
Well, that would be a threshing time, but before that, you have to stand it up. The machine would come in and bundle them up, and you'd stand them, I think, 5 or 6 bundles, and stand
Yeah.
them, and then they'd air out a little bit and dry out a little. And while we were doing that, I remember when I had a mouse crawl up my leg.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's one of the incidents I remember from that anyway. But,
Mm-hmm.
I liked working outside and doing that. It was just always nice, fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you threshed it, well, then the neighbors would come in, and they'd all get together and do the threshing.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd bring in their big machines, and I would help throw the grain onto. No, I would stand on the trailer where they'd throw the grain up on the trailer, and then there'd be somebody on the trailer you'd have a pitchfork, and you'd pick up that bundle of grain and you'd lay it on it so you could get more grain on it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't just be thrown in there and laying on over. You had to stack it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then they throw it in the machine when they separated the grain and the straw.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. I would help with that part of it. And then when we were out in the fields, I'd always make a big meal and bring it out in the fields to the men that were doing the harvesting,
Yeah.
pack a big lunch and everything, and then we'd come home and make a big dinner to feed everybody. so that one. And my aunt, they used to, have all their own animals, so they would butcher their pigs, and then they would cut up the meat and store it, and she'd always make really good homemade sausage. It was just the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped with that.
So then, after high school, where did you, or what did you do, or what?
During high school, my sister used to sell, had built that theater complex in Pierce, which now is no longer there.
Yeah.
But, so it was very new. They built, there was a grocery store in the end, and a theater, and then there was a bar connected with that.
Mm-hmm.
And
You just know about
my sister Virginia sold tickets at that theater.
Yeah.
Well, she was in high school, when I was 13, I was hired to sell popcorn. They had a popcorn machine, and so I would.
You ran the theater, or you were helping the popcorn, or?
I'd make popcorn at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And I could.
In Pierce?
In Pierce, yeah.
Okay. What was the theater called? you remember the name of the theater?
Yeah, it was a Star Theater.
Star Theater.
Yeah. And so I'd make popcorn. And then when she graduated from high school, she went to work. She got a job working at the post office.
Mhm.
And so then I was given the job of selling tickets at the theater.
Okay.
So I sold tickets at the theater until I graduated. And then when I graduated, I was hired to work for Dr. Stein in Pierce.
Okay.
And I was his office girl. He taught me
And what would
lab work.
you do for Dr. Stein then?
Oh, I did everything there. He taught me how to do everything. He taught me how to do blood work.
Okay.
Well, I did go to the hospital to learn to do some of these basic laboratory work.
Okay.
So then I would draw blood,
Mhm.
and I would test blood, do it with a microscope and on a screen,
Mhm.
and I test it in testing tubes, like you do sed rates, they called it. I don't know if they've got a different name for it now. And he taught me to do, I did x-rays. He had an x-ray machine, just a small x-ray machine. It was totally different than anything you do now.
Yeah.
And I did that. I did x-rays and developed them and did lab work,
Mhm.
blood work and lab work. And I helped him with patients, and he did everything,
Mhm.
you know, about everything. He had prescriptions in there, you know, he'd have his own little prescription area that he could write out prescriptions for. And
Well, and you were an X-ray technician, correct?
yeah, that's what I was a lab and X for him. That's what I did.
Mhm.
Yeah, he trained me. I did that for 3 years.
Okay.
And then I,
Then you met Grandpa Harvey, or is that?
well, I knew him in high school,
Mhm.
but he went in seminary in Wisconsin for right after high school. Well, first year after high school, he went out west and visited his grandmother, who had taken care of the kids after his mother died. She helped him raise. His dad raised there were six
Mhm.
kids, and so she was there to help him through that. And then as they got off into high school,
Mhm.
then he remarried and later than that. And then he went off after a year. He visited some relatives of his out west.
Mhm.
And he came back and he went into the St. Lawrence Seminary in Wisconsin. He was
Mhm.
there for a year, and then he came back to Minnesota. Went to Onamia Seminary.
Okay.
And then it was during the war, and then they.
Okay, then onward home.
Then they.
So he went to
Then he
seminary,
enlisted in
and
the
then
Navy-
he
he
did
enlisted
change.
in the Navy after that.
Okay, because he changed his mind. Is that correct? Of being a priest? Or
Yeah, it was during the war. And so
Okay.
he went.
during the Korean War?
Yeah, and he went to. He enlisted in the Navy. Was
Mhm.
accepted in the Navy, and then they went on with 4 years in the Navy. You know. And you know, there's things I remember. I know my brother Bill would know 10,000 more things than I remember.
And then so he enlisted in the Navy, and he was stationed in Hawaii.
Not right away. No, he was trained in. I think his first training was at Great Lakes Naval Center.
Mhm.
And I think from there he went to Jacksonville, Florida, and that's where he was. I think he went to school more there.
Mhm.
And did that sort of thing. And then he was stationed in Hawaii
Mhm.
at the Hickam Air Force Base. Yeah, he worked on airplanes and things like that. You know.
And then he flew out to Hawaii, or you flew out to Hawaii, correct?
Yeah, he was the last year that he was in the Navy in Hawaii. Then I flew out there to be married, yeah. Been married there at the Hickam Air Force Base Chapel.
Mhm.
Leonard Johnson, that's his name. Yeah, so he lived out there for a year. And
Because you had your honeymoon in Hawaii,
yeah,
right?
we had it in the island of Hawaii, on the Big Island.
Mm-hmm.
And he was stationed on Oahu, is where the naval base was. It was on Oahu, Pearl Harbor was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
and I don't know, we just, I think of, wow, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
We went to the edge of a crater that blows up every now and
Mm-hmm.
then. And, we walked through all of that.
Cool.
Yeah, swam in a river. I remember we swam. There was a place where who's this famous swimmer? Esther. I can't remember. They made a movie. Her movie was in this area.
Yeah.
We swam in this pool where
Mm-hmm.
she made her movie.
And then you guys moved back here to Minnesota
Yeah, when he finished his 4 years.
in the Navy.
Came back. Yeah, I came back.
And then he
Yeah. Had to get his discharge through the base in San Francisco. And then we drove up, we went up to, his relatives were in Seattle, Washington. So
Mhm.
we went up there and visited with them.
Mm-hmm.
And his uncle, one of his uncles was in a car dealership or salesman or had a garage. Helped us find a car.
Mm-hmm.
Found us a real neat little coupe
Mm-hmm.
car. And then we drove all the way back to Minnesota in that.
Really? Wait, what kind of car was it? It was like
It
a
was a coupe. It was just a picture of it someplace.
some like 1940s, 1950s coupe or
Yeah, it wasn't new, so it had to be maybe it was a 50 or
yeah.
52.
And then he built that house in
The house we lived in.
yeah, when did he build it? Do you know exactly?
Gosh, I haven't thought of these things for so long.
Cuz wasn't it before or after Deb was born?
Oh, we lived in we moved to Toledo, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were home for a little bit and visited, and then we moved because his good friend lived in Toledo, Ohio, and we really wanted to get out of Piers and out of there. We wanted to do something
Yeah.
a little different. So we moved to Toledo, Ohio is where his good friend was.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to start a business together, did some TV work, but he ended up getting a job with Baker Brothers, which was the name of that
Mm-hmm.
an electronics company, and they worked on computers. So when computers were just kind of coming out, and they just Baker Brothers. The guy that hired him was an old Navy man also, and so he and Grandpa Harvey got really clicked because they're both trained in the Navy, and just worked together really well. And so they were just setting up. So they were building up these computers, and they were setting some up out on the East Coast, and they went out there together and worked on them.
And Grandpa Harvey was working on that
Yeah, that was Grandpa Harvey. And
with the company Honeywell.
no, it was Baker Brothers out in Toledo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I can't remember the man's name anymore, but they just got to be good friends, and they worked together on setting up. He was head of the engineering. This man was head of the engineering at Baker Brothers and working on the computers, and so he was hired by Grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa Harvey was hired by him
Mhm.
to work with him. And I have pictures of it. When they first built these computers, they were just like a whole wall because they were all built with resistors and capacitors, and they put that all together.
Mhm.
And then they'd go out there every few months, and it just seemed to get smaller and smaller as the computers were developing more.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, so they went out there about 3 times. I think within about a year, they were just real small.
Yeah.
Before that, they were like as big as the walls were covered by big as this room here.
Mm-hmm.
Just of
Wow.
all the work that they had.
So
I have
this,
pictures
so,
of it.
so how big would you say have you seen
Oh,
it? The room was
Yeah,
just
it was 2 walls like this. I
yeah.
have pictures of both of them standing there in their white coats with all these boards of resistors and capacitors that they put together
Mm-hmm.
for their computers. And as it was developing, engineering was developing, that just all got smaller, and they just figured out how to. Well, now you know what they are, but
Mm-hmm.
that happened very quickly, But that's the way it started, and so. So then, and then we were there for about 3 years or so, and we decided to come back to Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got a job with Honeywell.
Mm-hmm.
And there I think he worked on the tanks and
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
How long did you live in that house he built?
I built a house in 1960. It was, I think I still have the plans for it.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we got the plans, and actually the plans were house plans from, actually a friend
Mm-hmm.
of his who built houses, and he did it on nights and Saturdays. In about,
Where did you guys live while he was building the house?
we rented in a house. I could still. It was on Highland Road,
Mm-hmm.
off of Highway 7,
Mm-hmm.
and we rented the downstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was another couple were upstairs. It's a nice area, big land, and so that was all good. And so he'd get home from work, and I'd have dinner on the table, and he'd go over and work on the house till about 9 o'clock at night.
Wow. So he was a pretty hard worker.
Oh, very hard worker, very dedicated, very hard worker, very, yeah. He knew what he was doing, he had a purpose, a plan, and he just felt. And so, and he worked with another man from up north that we knew,
Mhm.
that was, he was a carpenter, but he really hadn't built houses before, but we were able to get a loan because he was our builder. We had to have a builder in order to get a loan, and so anyway, he was our builder, and they worked together on building our house.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did a lot of the work. They did a lot of the work themselves. And he did a lot of the electrical work because all during high school, Grandpa Harvey worked with a man in Lastrop, where he was from. He helped with the electrical work. He worked with an electrician all during high school
Mm-hmm.
with somebody.
So he knew like carpentry, like he could help.
Yeah, he
Like
was
being
very-
electrician,
he
carpentry, and-
yeah, he learned a lot of that kind of thing along the way. But electrical work, he did that all during high school with an electrician
Mm-hmm.
who was, doing this in homes and businesses.
Mhm.
So he learned a lot of that. That was just his ability to do these things.
Yeah.
Catch on. He was an engineer, thinking person,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's also why he, in the Navy, that's how he was chosen to work on airplanes, because that's who he was. He was he was an engineering kind of person.
And so what church did you guys go to when you moved into that house? In what city was it again? It was
You mean when we were back in Minneapolis?
yeah.
We went to, it was a Catholic church. We went to, it was in Glen Lake.
Was it like? I thought it was in Chanhassen.
No, we didn't, not until we went to, St. Hubert's Church in Chanhassen.
Oh, okay.
Before that, we went to a church in Glen Lake. Can't think of the name right now, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to St. Hubert's Church in Chanhassen.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought an acre of land from this man who had a farm right there, the Sinan Farm.
Mm-hmm.
And so he just helped with everything on it and worked every night after work. And there was the summer before that, he helped one of the neighbors who was building a house in that same area. He helped him with the intention of this man was going to help Harvey build our house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when it was time to build our house, this man had a job in another state, so he wasn't there to really help him. So Harvey did a lot of the work himself, you know. But he had a carpenter. No, the builder. He worked a lot with the builder. You could do that at that time. You could build a house, you'd have a builder and somebody work with you on it. So, and he did, I think, a lot of the electrical work, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember we put tile in the bathrooms and
Mm-hmm.
What